This special edition upload of the Game Sports Show brought to you by Compass Imaging and Signage as well as Dumanski Office Interiors. Compass Imaging and Signage is a large format print shop, posters, banners, vehicle graphics, advertising, trade show displays, decals, wayfindings, signs of all kinds, graphic design, fine art reproduction, and custom work. You can check them out at www.compassimaging.com. Dumanski Office Interiors is a well-recognized full-service office furniture dealer and design company in Sault Ste. Marie and Algoma area for over 40 years. DOI represents leading manufacturers such as Herman Miller, Nightingale, 3H Manufacturing, Group LaCase, and Focal Upright Seating, with much more. Now, here's the best part of it all. Both fantastic businesses are located in one spot, 500 Industrial Park Crescent, Unit 1 in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Make sure to stop by today, and don't forget to check them out on social media as well, Facebook or Instagram. Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Show special edition upload powered by the Game Entertainment and Media, GEM for short, along with the GameSportsShow.com. You're currently listening to the game through one of the many media platforms, Spotify podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Facebook and or Instagram, Facebook and Instagram being at the Game Sports Show, where you can find all uploads of the game. Now getting to the special edition co-host, a man who is literally full of piss and vinegar, again using that line. He is a tough guy, sort of, if you kind of count underrated tough guy. Pure legend for his trademark clap bombs from the top of the circle. Like, how many times? These clap bombs from the top of the circle, he did them when he was playing. He still does them in men's league. Literally click, click, boom is the way I like to call it. Brendan Brooks. Brooksy, how's it going?
Going good. Good to be back doing this again.
Now, getting to our guest, and the main reason why you clicked this link, most likely, not because you desire to hear myself and Brooksy's voices as much as we try to seduce you with our great voices, you clicked this because of this man, this legend in my eyes, former professional hockey player, in particular known for his days in the NHL with the Edmonton Oilers, Florida Panthers, and the Pittsburgh Penguins, and also known for literally putting his fist to superior use. From Brock, Saskatchewan, coming in at 6'5", 250 pounds, Steve MacIntyre. Steve, thanks for coming on. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
Oh, I hope you liked that intro. I hope you approve with that.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Yeah, you're ready to go back and play
yet.
now.
Do what?
Go back and play. You're ready to go back and play for sure.
Yeah, Brooks, you can ride. I'll ride shotgun on your line, bud. Let's do it.
Now, people can watch your fights on YouTube. Something to that right now where, you know what, I watched a lot the last couple of days, more so than before, which we'll get into more throughout the show. You also have social media. You have Twitter, etc. What is your handle? How can someone follow you? Give some insight on how someone can follow the one and only Steve MacIntyre.
Oh, gosh. Now I got to go back and look because I forgot what it was.
Smacker33.
Yeah, that's right. Smacker33. That's an Instagram, and I'm getting blown up on Twitter because I made a couple comments that I think were taken out of context, but that's all right. Whatever. Hey. I love it. Stirring the pot. Yeah, at Smacker33.
There you go. That's a good, obviously on Twitter, you got a great following. I just ended up following you today, to be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat that I've been following you forever, but you know what? It's overall social media is such an intense platform, and everything that's going on, obviously social media up the ante, if you will, a little bit, but we're not going to jump into all that fun stuff. Brooks, you got the first topic to jump into, which kind of transitions nicely because social media obviously was big. It started getting bigger in the early thousands, got bigger in the tens, and obviously Steve was playing playing throughout those times, but obviously in the tens, the Oilers, etc., going with Florida and the Pittsburgh Penguins. But I know you're going to focus on something else first before we jump into his playing days.
Yeah, I definitely just want to talk about what he's doing now. I know you're at the fire hall, so he's a fireman. And I just want to talk about, through the PHPA, how you got into becoming a fireman and just about that program and how great it is for, ex-athletes and ex-professional athletes, that is, through the PHPA.
And what a great organization. Like I said, I know you were part of the organization, like as far as a rep, and I was part of it as a rep. We always had good communication with Larry and the guys down there. It was such a great opportunity for me. I'm down here and being brought up back home Saskatchewan, I was kind of wanting to go back and take over the farm, but didn't really pan out. But that being said, my dad and I sat down and I kind of asked him a few things, what I should do and careers. And one of them was to be a firefighter, and the other one was to be an RCMP officer. And believe it or not, I feel like I made the best decision as far as the transition. I work with a bunch of peckerheads that, it's kind of like being in the room, amongst the guys. But, as you guys, wow, I know, Brooks, you were on the phone coaching me through this whole how to get on Skype thing or whatever this is. And you were hearing us chirping back and forth. So, I mean, you kind of get it's the same feel. The PA, they enabled us they kind of put it in the works as far as the career enhancement program, as far as the fire. I think I want to say I was the first or second group to go through Festi out of Toronto, Greater Lester Pearson International Airport there in Toronto, and what a great experience that was. And I highly recommend for guys that are kind of making that decision at the end of their career, or not really sure what to do, give it a look. Contact the guys down at the union office, and really, if you pass my name around, I'll talk to them. I mean, it's a great job. I love it. There's a lot of good things about it. I can't say enough good things about it.
See, now
it's amazing to see what Larry has done, with this program, and how much passion he has, for all the players, especially him being an ex player himself, and he's done so much for the guys, and I'm so grateful to know him very well, as you do, and I'm just really thrilled that the program's thriving right now.
It is, and like I said, when you're playing, you don't really realize what they're really doing. But I think after you're finished, you really kind of, as you all know, you're a commodity, and once you're done, you're done. They throw, the teams throw you by the wayside, and they'll get a new one. You get a younger guy, and I think that's where the union really kind of comes in, and hey, we're gonna help you out. More so than other unions, I believe. And, like I said, if I ever have a problem, if I have a question, I call down there, and they're quick to answer, and they're such nice, good people down there too. So.
See, and obviously being a fireman is rewarding. I'm lucky enough to have a few friends that are actually here in Sault Ste. Marie, which is obviously locations are different for when you're doing it, but it's definitely a rewarding job, right? But overall, you must be very proud of what you've accomplished even after playing, because when it comes to playing hockey, you had a career that was tough, a long, grueling career, and then after you're done playing professional hockey, you go and you want to do something after, and you're doing a job that's just not only rewarding, but it's also essentially giving back, right? Or is that, or would you disagree with that point?
No, I mean, it absolutely is. It's like, I'm a big physical guy. I've always been that way. Right from the time I can remember, I always liked doing physical things, and whether it was working with my dad or just even my fun for my hobbies, I'm always doing something physical, and that's part of who I am. That's my DNA, and to be able to give back to the community. We were such a part of the community when we were with the teams doing different promotional events and being part of the community. It was just kind of a transition that was easy to make. I was able to make it and able to communicate and talk with people. And I felt like I was one of those guys that, heck, I can have a conversation with a tree, or, it doesn't matter who you were. I could sit there and talk, and we could find something in common. So,
yeah, it's rewarding. And obviously, Brooksy, you're back here at Sault Ste. Marie, and I like to say that you're obviously a big contributor here with the show. And every player, the people wonder, what are you going to do after hockey? Look at some players that went back to kind of joining the league and things, like George Peros. Look what he's doing right now. Someone that I know you're familiar with, Steve, that we'll get into in a little bit. But it's good to see what people can do to give back. And it's also a common theme. Like, I'll say it, like a lot of athletes go that route of giving back to the community, of being either a fireman, a police officer, or RCMP officer of the Canadian, or working kind of doing some of that work, kind of that public service work, which is obviously a good use because it keeps your athleticism up. It's just a rewarding job throughout.
Like I said, I love it. We're always doing, and the good thing about it is, like, really a bunch of men acting like a bunch of little kids with squirt guns driving big trucks, with red blinky lights on them, making a lot of racket. So I mean, and everybody loves a fireman. Everybody loves a fireman. So it's a good gig.
Edition yet? Did you get a calendar edition yet?
Well, you know what? I'm still working on it. The deal's in the works. I'm hoping that it'll get signed.
I like that. It's hilarious. Now, we'll transition from the now into kind of backtrack a little bit to your playing days. And we'll start with the WHL and kind of work your way up. I know we'll kind of free flow from there. And you played with the Saskatchewan Blades, where you were also with the Red Deer Rebels.
Whoa! I gotta hold on a second.
Yeah.
What did you just say?
Saskatchewan. Oh my God.
Did you just say Saskatchewan?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I did say.
Yeah,
I'm calling a spade a spade.
I'm call him out.
I'm not even editing that out. I'm going to keep that in.
Oh my God, I cannot believe it. The guys down here give me a hard time for that.
Oh, that is funny.
You're from Saskatoon, eh? I'm like, at the front door, guys. But,
he played there. He played with Red Deer, Prince Albert, Medicine Hat, and playing in those experiences, those teams, you had Scott Hartnell, Colby Armstrong, Joffrey Lupul, and Joffrey Lupul, Leaf fans love that name. Nah, jokes aside. Jay Bomeister, Garnet Exelby, Darcy Hordichuk, just to name a couple guys you play with. Just your overall experience in the WHL, and was it difficult to say the name back then, or?
It was still kind of the Wild West. We had some tough teams. Like it was just, it was right after Scott Parker left, and he was kind of he was the sheriff back then. But I mean, it was just tough. I mean, the travel was tough. The teams were tough. The rinks we played in were tough. The winter was tough. I mean, it was back when hockey was fun, and you kind of learned what the teams were made of. And unfortunately, I was part of a couple of teams that, we really weren't that good, but I think we were exciting to watch anyway. But anyway, it was an experience. I remember, like I said, I forget, it was 24 hours or something like that from Seattle, Washington to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and me and Brent Henley, we were the rookies on the team. We had to sit beside each other all the way home. Double up, rookies.
Oh yeah. Two pretty small guys there.
Yeah. I'm 6'7", I'm 6'5",
Yeah.
It was miserable.
Penalty for nap time when the movies were on.
Yeah. It was terrible.
Oh, see,
terrible.
And the West, and Brooksy, get your opinion on this too. The WHL was obviously known as a tougher league, and even nowadays it's changed, obviously, okay, but it's still, believe it or not, from what I gather from experts around the area, they still consider out of the three leagues between the O, the Q, and the W, that they consider it more of the tougher league out of the three. And a lot of like WHL players, those type of players, if you can play that both hard-nosed type talent and still put pucks in the net, those are the players that they desire. And I think the WHL has also just been just as exciting, if not more, than the OHL and the Q at times, right? And just going to the rink, and you're going to get boys that are just going to put their heart on the line, block shots, drop the mitts in your case, Steve, and just literally provide entertainment from puck drop until buzzer sounds.
Like I said, I never had the pleasure or knowledge of those other leagues, but it was tough. It was Western. They didn't call it the Western Hockey League for nothing.
Brooks, you think you would have survived in the W then, or what?
Oh yeah, I probably would have loved it. I would have loved it. For a little guy, I like getting my nose dirty, and I love chirping the big guys.
Yeah, we couldn't catch you.
Thank God.
Yeah.
But then
I get so pissed off. He'd be chirping me. I was in a ski and he'd be chirping me, and I'm like, I'm sitting there making sawdust out of my stick. Like I'm just, I'm getting fired out just talking about it right now.
I
know Brooksy upset a couple guys. Brooksy obviously got this under his skin.
I'm so glad he didn't catch me. I'm so glad he didn't catch me. I'm so glad.
Oh no, all good fun.
But that's the beauty of hockey. You know what I mean? Exactly. We chirp on the ice, and we can have a beer, shake a hand after the end of the game, and that's the beauty, and that's what I love about hockey, and actually the hockey mentality of the individual players. For the most part, you can get along after, and you can put behind you what's gone on the ice, and I think that is a great thing, and it's special. It's very special.
It's something that, the other sports I don't. Sorry about that. A guy rode by on his cool lawnmower.
Is that Brooksy going by on skates? Holy Christ.
Somebody went by on their lawnmower.
See, and with the W you play there, then you jump in afterwards, and you transition after you end up playing in various professional leagues. And Brooksy, I want to actually go to you first because I know there's some leagues and teams that you're familiar with here after Steve was done in the Wild Wild West, if you will.
Well, yeah. Well, his first year was in Muskegon Fury. I think you guys actually beat my team, the Quad City Mallards, in the finals, if I remember correctly. Or I can't remember exactly. Maybe not that year. You know what? No, what? They didn't that year. I think we beat you out that year.
I think you guys did. I think it was the year before we beat you guys, and then we went on to win against Elmira at home.
That's exactly what happened.
And then the year after, I want to say you guys beat us. Because that was my second year in Muskegon.
Yeah, so what was it like for your first year playing in Muskegon? I also want to talk about, because you also played in Quad City, it was pretty amazing, the support that was in the United Hockey League back then. It was such an underrated league, and there was a lot of talent there. And, a lot of the guys would get called up to the American Hockey League, sometimes refuse it because they had such a nice set up there, and it was great for them to be a part of and just stay because they were making good money, they were comfortable and treated so well.
I mean, absolutely. Like I said, when I played Muskegon, I mean, it was top notch. They treated us so well. Both my first year or half a year there, I got suspended out of the one league for life, and I ended up going to Toledo. Playing for them or going to Muskegon, and I think Muskegon was like, I want to say Quad City and Muskegon were like 1-2 in the league, and my coach was like, man, if it was me, I'd go to Muskegon. So I went to Muskegon and ended up skating with the guys that morning, and I mean, what an experience. I get out there on my first pro shift, first pro game, pick on Mark Durant. Do you remember Mark Durant? Big guy from Port Huron.
I played with. Yep, I played with him in North Bay in the OHL.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's huge. And my old coach was like, I just picked the biggest guy out there and have at it. And I was like, okay. Well, I found out quick, fast, and in a hurry that going from junior hockey fighting to pro, it's a little different.
Some guys are a bit bigger and tougher, or what?
A little bigger, they hit a little harder, and But I was doing my thing. I went in there, I was throwing rights, and then I switched up, and bango, he caught me, and I'm like, whoo! I'm sure I looked like a redwood oak tree falling in the forest, but I got back up. I think we ended up fighting 2 or 3 more times, and he's tough, and I ended up getting him. We were in training camp. He was in Lowell, and I was in Hartford, and I got him back. So
that's revenge.
It's
fight always nice to have revenge.
Pardon me?
So you fight both hands then?
I can, yeah. I've been accused of that. That was my kind of my ace in the hole, I guess.
I kind of noticed it in some YouTube videos, not gonna lie. I know you took a couple good ones to Andre DeVoe. A couple. I know that video. I don't think he knew where he was after that fight. That was you kind of exchanged using a couple hands there. But then you obviously had some fights where you were just throwing rights, and those right-handed fights are big with Derek Boogaard. Yeah. Right, it's like I'll jump into that right now. Well, I know we're gonna backtrack a little bit from your first, how you felt when you got called up and everything, but just the overall fighting experience, the view of the fighter. Like, you're fighting guys that are like, when I played NHL 10 back in those days, I would make a team like that for fun, literally fighting crap out of everybody. Yourself, you got Trevor Gillies, you got guys like Derek Boogaard, who guys are just absolute trucks, right? And with your fighting, you fought Donald Bergeron, Andre DeVoe, you KO'd him. Radis Evans, hopefully I didn't butcher that last name. Multiple times you KO'd him. Derek Boogaard, Colton Orr, Peros, David Cucci. you're fighting these guys, and do you have a strategy for each one, or do you just have that one thing per fight where you're going, hey, I'm just going to go with it here and just see how it goes?
So I never really necessarily had a style. I hated grappling. Like, it was like watching paint dry. It's like all these guys that, that was, if I'm trying to get my team up, and if it's kind of a lull in a game, or it's just kind of boring. I mean, I always loved watching the guys like Rooksy fight, because I mean, you didn't know what was going to happen, but there was a lot of fur flying and there was a lot of fist flying. I mean, they could have been missing 90% of their, but I mean, it looked pretty dang good, because I mean, there was some, you didn't know. It was like watching the featherweights fight. It's just like it was so fast, and I mean, that's kind of the way. If you wanted to tie my arm up, all right, well, I'm going to fight left-handed. Or if you want to tie my left hand up, I'm going to fight right-handed. And the guys that, that could figure that out with me, like George Peros was really, really good at it. He was a good grappler, and I hated fighting him because he had big, long arms, and he was strong. He really strong, and he had good stamina. And I really couldn't do anything with him. I think we fought like 2 or 3 times, and I couldn't beat him. And he was the most frustrating guy to fight, because he was just about as, he was just as strong as I was, and he was a good fighter. And I mean, a lot of the times, I get guys doing different things, and I could catch them. And I mean, I wasn't necessarily the smartest fighter. I just, just pure on just downright, I'm gonna fight you, and I want to make sure that I might not win this fight, but by God, you'll sure know you've been in one type mentality. And then toward the end of my career, I know this sounds terrible, but I got a little bit ornery and maybe a little bit meaner, and I kind of had a little different mentality. It was like, I'm gonna make sure that you don't ever want to fight me again. So,
Yeah, that's because as you get older, you don't want to fight as much.
Because you hurt more.
Right. Exactly. So you're right. I'm gonna make this one fight so much better than the last, and we're gonna go with it.
It's just like a Toby Keith song. I'm good once as I ever was. I'm good once as ever. Something like that. Yeah.
See, you fought Derek Boogaard twice in one game, if I'm correct. I think that was in 2010 or 11 in New York. I think you fought him twice in one game. Yeah. So, like, you fought him the one time. What was like? You can see from the video there was a teammate of yours, and I can't remember top of my head who it was, but it was at the circle, and you over-tapped him and said, "Nah, move." And he went beside Derek and said, "Okay." And it sounds like you said left hook, a couple of answers in there. But did you jump in and do that second fight because of what was going on in that altercation with your teammate, or did you know that, hey, I want another match against him this game because I didn't like how the first one went, even though the first one was pretty entertaining, despite that it did have a little bit of grappling in there. It's just kind of with you and Boogaard sharing exchanges. It's always an exciting fight between the two of you, because if there's somebody. He's a big man, Derek Boogaard. Yeah. That's putting it lightly, right? He was a big guy. You're up, boy. And, what was going through your mind? Like, okay, I know I'm fighting him that second time, or that just happened spur of the moment?
Well, the first time, Derek's a big dude. I mean, he made me look small. And, I didn't do as well as I wanted to in the first fight. I was kind of waiting. I was getting lit up. But, I mean, they weren't really hurting. And, the lines are, so the thing about, I had a little bit of a strategy with Derek, and, I respected him as a fighter, no question. Obviously, he's big, strong, and he was dangerous, but I felt, I had a game plan going into it, and I figured, all right, if I can survive the onslaught, and if he can, beat his hands up on my head, the top of it, and I could survive that, I'd be okay. And, that was kind of my mentality, and that was kind of my thoughts. And usually it took me about 3 or 4 before I got mad anyway, and which wasn't really the smartest approach to it. But
and when you're on the bench, you're obviously being that role player that you were. It's like you're sitting on the bench, and then when you're against Boogaard, or if you're going against Colton or Peros, you got to know in that game before the game that you're fighting that guy in that game most likely. Or is that an overstatement too? Because typically if that guy's going on the ice most likely you're going on the ice too, right? And then you guys are going to start chirping, or there might be a heat of the moment down low in the corner, or he's pushing a teammate, or vice versa, whatever it may be. So when you're talking to your coach, does the coach tell you before the game, oh, well, we're playing George Peros, and a guy that I know we're going to talk about a little bit more, Craig MacTavish. I think yourself and Brooksy have him in common in terms of being a coach. Does he go, all right, Steve, we're playing against George Peros, and I'm expecting at least one Tilly against him tonight, or you know what, Steve, I wish you wouldn't drop the gloves tonight. I wish maybe you'd just go down there, get a mad, cause a penalty, and then, maybe grind out a goal. Or how does that work on the bench when those guys are going on the ice and just before the game when you're going against those guys?
It's kind of a little of this, little of that. Kind of you get a feel for the game, and that's the one thing that at the end of my career, I ended up coaching a little bit out in Salt Lake City for the Utah Grizzlies. I was kind of helping out, assistant coaching. And, Brooks, I'm sure you probably attest to this too. It's like you start, I was so worried, I was so consumed with the game at hand, per se, that I didn't really see the game within the game. And, toward my end of my career, I started understanding the game in the game. And, for people that have played a high level or good at what they were good at, which, Brooksy was good at what he did. There's a game within the game, and, not any really particular one coach ever sent me out to fight. That was kind of the, I knew kind of when to go. A lot of coaches, started in the first period, and, I was never ever a guy that would go looking for it per se. I've been accused of being a reactionary fighter or enforcer or whatever. But, I go out there and I play hard, and, I try to hit and I try to, play the game the right way. And, if a fight happened, great. If it didn't, if we were flat, in the first period and come out the second period, lay a big hit, do whatever. I mean, I kind of knew that was my style. That was the way I should play. I mean, toward the end of my career, I developed a reputation where not a lot of guys wanted to fight me because I had that mentality that I wanted to make sure that, you didn't ever want to fight me after. And so I kind of had to, it was hard. It was hard adjusting because, obviously I had a limited number of tools in my toolbox. So, it was an adjustment. And, a lot of people accused me of not being a very proactive enforcer. And, I pride myself in that because I felt like I played the game the right way. I played it hard. I wasn't too dirty. I'm probably dirtier now because I'm fat and slow and out of shape. So I whack a few guys. I'm playing a little bit now. I whack a few guys, across the ankles, slow them down. I try to. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if I could hook a little bit, heck yeah. If I could slash them, slow them down. If I could get a little bit more, room in the corner with some little punk, my gosh, I'm going to do it. So, my dad gave me a lecture the other day. He's like, you can't play like that anymore. I said, hey, Dad, last time I checked, they're giving me a little bit more, wider berth here. So I'm going with it. But, See, it's just as you mature as a player and as a role player, you start to kind of figure things out a little bit. And I mean, I might have figured them out a little too late. I don't know. But I'd like to say, I never had too many suspensions. I mean, I had a couple little incidents where, you have to make them think you're half crazy, but, worked in my favor. So,
Nice.
But yeah.
And you jump in. Yeah, Brooksy. Yeah, sorry. I know you're.
I was just gonna say, because I want to, go back a bit here, back to 2008. You get that, probably get a call from your agent. I don't know how it happened. I just curious how you got the call to go to Edmonton, for your first NHL contract. You worked your bag off. You started in the U-Haul and just worked your way up, made a name for yourself. So I'm just curious, what your feeling was and how this all happened for you.
Well, it was actually funny. So So I kind of even go back farther than this. So I was actually, I was playing. That was the year I played in Quad City. I ended up quitting 5 games in the season. I said, to hell with it. I'm done. I think I was in a couple fights, and I really wasn't. My head really wasn't in the game. I was away from my family. I just had a little boy, and he was born in April, and I was away from him. I was really, really homesick. And I said, you know what, the hell with it. I'm not doing this. This is dumb. I went from Charlotte to Quad City, and I was just miserable. And so I went back home, and my dad, he and my mom and my brother and sister, they're big parts of the success that I've had. They sacrificed a lot for me to be able to give me the opportunity to do what I did, and very grateful for that. But my dad sat me down, and we had a long conversation about the future and kind of where I wanted to be. And I told him, I said I wanted to take over the ranch, and at that time that just wasn't feasible. So he said, if you quit now, you'll in 10 years, 5 years, whatever, you're looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, should I have tried it? Should I just kept on? So anyway, that kind of was reiterated to another successful farmer that was an area that I was really good friends with his son. And even to this day, they're kind of good friends with the family. So I got talking to him, and he kind of said the same thing. So it kind of encouraged me to go back and, just give her a last go. So I ended up going back to Muskegon. Well, Providence had called me. I was playing pretty good, and I was getting in a couple scraps, and I was playing pretty good, and they called me up, and I told them, I said, no, sir. I said, I can't come up. I said, I'm not going to, like I said, I refused to, I didn't want to go up. I told him, I said, I left my team earlier in the season. I said, we were just going into playoffs. I said, I'm not going to do it again. So I said, if you guys were really interested in me, I said, we'll talk this summer. So summer or spring playoffs go by. Summer goes by. It's kind of getting, I think it's about 2 weeks before training camp type thing. And Providence calls me up. It says, would you like to come try out? We've got a skills coach. We've got a fight coach. We want you to come try out. So I ended up skating, a month before training camp. And I flat out told him, I said, I was retired. I was, 280 pounds or whatever. And, I was no shape to be playing hockey, but I told him, I said, this is where I'm at. And he said, well, you know what? Just come on. So I went up there, and I had, the best, most memorable hockey season. We should have won. It was what could have, should have, didn't. Long story short, but we had one of the tightest group of guys that I've ever played with in my whole entire career, and I can pretty much name all of them. It was one of the best teams I ever played on, and I was part of that. We had a successful year up until playoffs, and that was another story, kind of a sore spot. And then that summer, I got signed by Florida. He was the Panthers, Mr. V, my skating and skills coach, was really good, kind of a go-between between Florida, the head scout in Florida, and Providence. And so he was kind of the go-in-between guy. And they ended up signing me. I went to training camp. I ended up playing my first exhibition game actually in Edmonton with Florida. And then I played, I think, in Calgary. I think that was it. And then we played Dallas and Montreal. And then they put us on a bus. The guys, they waved us. They put us on a bus. And then we were headed to Rochester. Well, I got to Rochester, and I stayed in Rochester for about 2 days. Jack Birch, I want to say he was one of the scouts for Florida, calls me into the office and calls me off, or he calls me mid-practice. He calls me into the office and says, hey, Macker, Edmonton just picked you up. And, of course, I'm like, oh, like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, Edmonton just picked you up off waivers. He's like, I don't really agree with it. You need to develop, blah, 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 blah. Yada, 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 blah, bullshit. Whatever. But anyway, I shouldn't say that. But he was I think he was pissed off because I was going to Edmonton. Of course, I was ecstatic. Like, I mean, this was like a dream come true, going back to my hometown, per se, the team that I grew up watching and cheering for as a kid. I'm getting to go play for them. And I mean, it was just the most exciting part of my career, probably more than anything, more than signing the contract. I mean, I'd signed contracts, but I mean, getting the actual chance. And when I really kind of understood what that meant, it was like, I'm going to be in Edmonton for, a considerable amount of time here, and it was just like, it really hadn't registered, I guess. And then, I get to Edmonton and my first practice, I mean, I was skating as fast as I could give her, which really wasn't that fast, but I thought I was doing, really fast. But I mean, it was
giving her
working. Oh yeah, just plan B, just gotta give her, bud. But I'm out there just working my bag off, and Mac T comes over and starts talking to me, and I think we ended up playing Calgary a couple nights after, and I mean, it just was like, and this is the thing, I'm sitting there in the dressing room, and I was one of the last guys to get dressed, put my jersey on, and Ethan Morrow, we call him Chopper, he was sitting in the corner, and I mean, I looked down, I put the jersey over my head, and I was in tears, because I mean, I looked down, and even now as I kind of talk about it, I kind of turn into a big sissy, but it's like, you look down and you just can't, you well up with pride, because it's like, all the sacrifices, all the, early morning practices, all the, doing withouts to, your family's there, and everybody's there rooting you on, and it's like, you get to pull the jersey over, and it's just like, it's like the best feeling that a guy could ever have. I mean, it's a dream come true. And I mean, as I'm sitting there, I told this to Chopper, and he's like, he said, if only more of us would have that same outlook, he said, we'd appreciate it that much more, and we'd be that, we'd work that much harder. And it was kind of after that, a runaway train. I mean, I don't remember anything up until, Jim Vandermeer went after Benoit, or a couple guys, and my line mates, and I had to kind of stick up for them, and I mean, other than that, it was just like, I had the worst number in the league, but at least I was there. I had 25, like this, but I wasn't gonna complain. I was just like, hey, whatever you give me, I don't care. What kind of sticks is? I don't know, whatever, just as long as they're left-handed. Hell, I'll use a right-handed.
Hell, I used the right-handed ones.
It don't matter.
That's cool. And you get that, right? You go in that locker room with the Oilers, and just to rhyme off a couple guys, Hemsky, Horkoff, Surrey, Gagne, the wet dog, if you will. Everyone knows who that is nowadays, Ryan Whitney. And you're playing in a hotbed of hockey, right? And it seems so positive for that organization at the time, because Sam Gagne was a big fan of that when he got drafted out of London. And of course, now compared to what it was then, it's night and day, because you have somebody named Connor McDavid on the roster nowadays. But yeah, he's decent. I guess it's good when you score 100+ points a year all the time.
Yeah.
But no, he doesn't have over 100 penalty minutes though, so he doesn't have that stat on you. You have a better stat than he does when it comes to penalty minutes. But you're in Edmonton, and overall you're looking at playing for your favorite team, and you've also played over in Florida too. So, just to kind of say, playing in Florida and Pittsburgh, we'll jump to quickly. We have a couple of points we'll get to before we let you go. But the one thing I want to jump into with Edmonton is the relation between yourself and Brooks that you have with Craig MacTavish. Craig MacTavish is obviously a legend in Edmonton. He's won cups player there. He's been a part of that team. It felt like he was a part of that team from when he started until at least 2015. It seems like Craig MacTavish was a part of that team at all times. So just your kind of opinion on him as a coach that you've had him, and then also yourself, Brooksy, having familiarity with having MacTavish.
Brooksy, where do you have Mac T?
Well, he was my coach at the Spangler with Team Canada.
That's right,
so
too.
I got to so I got to get to know him, through that way. And I had him a short time, and I had him at a great time because it's an amazing tournament to be a part of, and actually to be playing for Team Canada. So it was like there was no reason for me not to like everything and anything that was going on at that time.
He probably loved you too.
Yeah, I thought he treated me great. I was just really happy for him, his career. And I think that's the thing with Edmonton. They really take pride in, if you're a part of Edmonton, you're going to be a part of Edmonton for as long as they're around. I feel like they do one of the best jobs at keeping people involved or who's been a part of their team for a long time.
That's the great thing about the Oilers. Like, they are the one team out of every team that I've played for over the course of my career. With all due respect to the other teams, they've reached out. I felt like, I've got some great friends still with the organization. I got some great friends back in Edmonton. And I mean, my dad, my mom and dad, we kind of take this, and I mean, we're small town people, and I come from a pretty small town, and I'm very proud of Brock, Saskatchewan, and there's ranching and farming and oil and gas and this and that, and the way I grew up and the way my mom and dad were back in Rexall, Dad came with me everywhere, and my dad, he knew all the security guards. I mean, I knew everybody, and everybody knew my dad, and that was just the way it was. Everybody knew my mom too, and it was kind of neat. Well, the way they treated my family, like the brass, like Kevin Lowe, there's a picture of the paper back home. Kevin Lowe and my mom and dad are sitting there having a coffee or, sitting there in conversation. That's the way they treated everybody. Like, you're a family. It was, they treated everybody with respect. They treated everybody so well. And like I said, I still talk to quite a few people. I was back in December, and man, what a great time to go back and visit with all the alumni. And I mean, I'm sitting there having a conversation when I was playing with Mark Messier. Mark Messier comes up to me. I'm looking for something in the training room, right before the game, and Mark Messier is sitting there talking to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Mark Messier, and Paul Coffey sitting on the computer drinking a coffee, and then Glenn Anderson's in the back cracking jokes, looking at twigs, and it's just like, actually that's what it was. It was Glenn Anderson retirement night. One of the coolest things I've ever been a part of in my life. It was unreal. I met Marty McSorley. I mean, the list goes on. Dave Semenko, like all these guys, and it's just like, when they say the motto in there is once an Oiler, always an Oiler. A lot of people have adopted, or a lot of teams maybe have adopted that motto, but until you're an Oiler, you're always an Oiler. Like, that's what they make you feel. That organization prides itself on making you feel part of that, whether they're, however long you've been retired till whatever. And it's a cool feeling.
See, and obviously playing in Edmonton is just a thrill itself. And one of our co-hosts, Dane Hantro, is a big Oilers fan, so I know he's definitely envious of anyone who has played over in Edmonton, because, being as much as hard as it's been for fans, a lot of things are looking upward for Edmonton, and that's very lightly right now. And yes, I give a lot of credit to someone named Connor McDavid, but there's other players on that team and just other people part of management. You were talking about how the organization is, and they have the right pieces in place there, and they have always had the passionate fan base, and you just enter as an organization the class act, right? And you played for two other organizations. I know we had a couple other topics to get to before we let you go. That being, obviously, you played in Florida. Just quickly there, you played with Weiss, with Horton, Brian McCabe, Leaf legend Brian McCabe, if you will. And so you had some time over there in Florida. That was great. But the team that I'd like to jump into quickly is the Pittsburgh Penguins, because obviously playing in Pittsburgh, okay, you have Sidney Crosby. I'm sure people have heard of him.
He's a pretty good player.
Yeah, he's
played on my line.
It's Sue Boy Tyler Kennedy, actually. There's a guy who
TK.
gets a lot of plays. Yeah, TK, he's definitely living the life, still doing his school and everything. You have Gino with Malkin. You have Stahl, Letang, Fleury, like the list goes on. You have Matt Cooke, and Matt Cooke was obviously known to prank people. So overall,
God, yeah.
my two things with Pittsburgh is that I want to jump to particulars. First off, is Crosby a freak like people say he is? Like, is he built like a truck? I'm just going to flat out ask if he's built very nicely. Okay, that's weird as that sounds. And number two,
That did kind of sound a little different. Not gonna lie.
and Matt,
The Saskatchewan and the yeah, that's kind of freaking me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever. He teaches his own, I guess. Whatever. I'm not judging.
no, Matt Cooke, did he prank you? Those are the two questions.
Me and Cookie went at it. We went at it nonstop. Like, he'd be always firing pucks at my feet, or doing something dumb. He was like that guy you love to hate. And I mean, and then once you played with him, it's just, you still love to hate him. But, he was such a goof, like, good guy. Cookie and I, we really got along well together. Because, I mean, it was kind of like Mutt Jeff, We had the little shit disturber. And then you had me. And I'd be like, all right, Cookie, like, go out there and stir some shit up. And, I mean, when we went to play the Senators, when I want to say it was the first game back. What's his name? The defenseman, stud defenseman.
Chris Letang?
No, he played for the Senators.
Carlson?
Yes, he was out with the. Crap. He had a
Achilles tendon?
Yes, he's Achilles tendon. That whole thing with the Achilles tendon and Cook and being dirty, and I mean, did he do it on purpose? No, he didn't do it on purpose. I mean, it's just dumb. But we ended up playing. They brought me up for that game, and there's I'll never forget it. So Cookie's in the corner. He's all, because he's got me. Well, first of all, if you've ever been in the dressing room in Ottawa, they're tiny. They're not that tiny. They're just the way their configuration. They've got 3 stalls on one side of the doorway to the bathrooms, and then 3 stalls on the other to the doorway to the bathroom. It's kind of like a big kind of U type thing. Well, they've got me, Douglas Murray, and Brooks Orpik sitting in the 3 stalls. So, of course, right off the hop, I'm, like, seriously? And Cookie's over there and I'm sure he probably moved our stuff, but he's just over in the corner just horse laughing because he's got, big stall, whatever. I mean, so us 3 big mutants are sitting, side, we're just crammed in there, and he's sitting there laughing at us. I mean, Cookie was the kind of guy that you didn't ever, he meant it all in fun, but it was almost like, all right, Cookie, if you do one more thing, I will. That's the way he was. He almost took it to the next level, but he was always, we always had fun. I love playing. Like I said, I hated playing against him because I wanted to kill him. But then once you get to play with him, it's like, he's a hoot. He's a big kid. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it's not
Crosby. Sid's a beauty. I mean, you guy's a freak. He was so the whole year he was out with his concussion deal. Him and we would shoot pucks. Like he'd put all the goalie gear on and I'd fire pucks at him. And I mean, he was a freak. He was an athlete. Like, I've never seen anything. I've never seen. And then he liked a couple hot dogs once in a while, but who didn't from Montreal? But I mean, guy was 5'10", maybe 215 or 210. I mean, he's a tank. He's and he works his butt off, and like I said, he's I think I mean, obviously he played on my line too. I'd like to make that very clear.
Yeah,
Sidney Crosby played on my line. Thank you very much. That would be the 5th line, which is my line. See, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, and then the 5th line is my line. So it's me and Sid, and used to be the assistant coach, one of the assistant coaches or whatever. That was my line. So yeah, Sid was on my line. So no big deal.
No, he's definitely a freak of nature, as we told, and I still think he is the best player to date. Still, I know
too. There's no doubt. I love him.
No, and McDavid's probably the fastest player to ever skate with a puck, obviously. And the thing is, though, when it comes to Crosby's accolades and who he is, it's just I still got him at number 1, and rightfully so. And I'm sorry, Oiler fans. Wow, I cannot speak at all today. But overall,
we'll spit the marbles out. We'll sort them out.
I got to make sure I may have a sip of these Northern Superior beers. Maybe I'll be good to go. But
maybe
overall,
too many.
No, maybe I should slow down or maybe transition over to liquor. But
that's a tough transition.
It is. I'll be sleeping very shortly if I jump into that. But obviously in Pittsburgh, different markets than where you've been. Then obviously after Pittsburgh, I know we can get into a lot more things, but given time we won't. But you played some more time in the American Hockey League, and then you obviously played over in Carolina, which Brooksy jumped in and said that you have an accent. Okay, I guess I kind of can tell, but it's not as bad as he made it out to be, though.
Well, apparently, like I said, you guys, I'm talking to y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all Canadians, eh?
Y'all.
So, I think I maybe camouflaged a little bit better because, like I said, you guys, you don't really sound like you have an accent. But now when I'm hanging out with my redneck buddies here at the fire station, they're real Southern. They're from Yadkin County and hell up in the mountains somewhere. I don't even know where they're from, where they're, playing dueling banjos. And but anyway, it's down here. There's some people, like I said, southern people are unreal. I love it down here. Other than it, being hot and humid, but yeah, they're kind of rubbing off on me a little bit.
See, now the last question that I'll ask you before we let you go, and Brooks will also give you final thoughts. But we like asking this to our guests, okay? And we do it kind of different per guest. So obviously, I was going to ask you the question, who's your favorite line mates or who you would choose, but I feel like you would choose Crosby on that one.
No, it wouldn't even. No, I mean, Sid's a great guy, but, my favorite, I mean, if you want to know, Trevor Gillies was my favorite line mate. Probably one of my favorites.
Okay.
And we could get into it. That's another podcast. We could do a whole podcast just on Trevor Gillies.
Yeah, we actually had him on the show, and he was great because
gosh.
him and I been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
He's a beauty. I think we need to do when we do a part 2 of having you on. That's when Trevor comes on and we have you on at the same time.
That would actually be. There would be a lot of that.
Well,
have you got a 2 hours like
story?
A special
Why
episode?
don't you give us one.
One what?
Gillies. Then just a story you have about Trevor Gillies.
Trevor Gillies. Okay, well, I've got like a few, but the very first time I met Trevor Gillies, you know his big boat, right? The 67 Bel Air, 4-door Bel Air, or whatever it is.
Oh, I know all about. I knew it before it was before the big Chev. Yep, I remember when it was green before it was black.
So he must have just got it painted then. So this big son of a gun. So I'm rolling in there. I just signed with the Rangers, or no. It's my second year. He was in Springfield the first time I met him because he was wanting to kill me. But anyway, long story short, we are driving to the practice facility to have an exhibition game and against, I forget, it was Bridgeport or whoever. And I have never met a more intense individual in my entire life, like off the charts. And he always says, Macker, so we're driving, we're a little bit late, and traffic's kind of rough, and this guy ends up cutting us off. Wrong move. I thought Trev was gonna yank him through the car door. Like I mean, it was the most. I was sitting there looking across, and I'm like, I'm gonna die. Somebody's gonna shoot me. I mean, is this guy for real right now? How many Red Bulls has he had? How many Red Bulls has he had? Come to find out, that's just how he was. I mean, that was what a fun year. We had me, him, Marty Grenier, and I was actually playing in Charlotte, but I got called up for 3 months and because he had a broken foot, so I came up and kind of helped fill in. And then we ended up being line mates. And oh my gosh, he's like, "You ready, Macker?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, buddy." We went, and like I said, we went into Springfield, and we had Marty Grenier, myself. Actually, pardon me, hold on. So Marty Grenier and Craig Weller were playing defense. I was playing left or right wing. Garth Murray was playing center, and Trevor Gillies was playing one of the wing. I can't remember what it was.
Oh.
We had a line brawl. I mean, it was on like Donkey Kong. I mean, it was just like And I mean, obviously being on the winning, I mean, I was loving it because I mean, I had Andre DeVoe and I forget. I mean, it was a free for all. Them poor buggers, like they didn't even know what was coming.
Oh no! Well, even Craig Weller is a big man himself. Like, I know Wellesley very well, and obviously he's a beauty too.
And then Muzz. I mean, Garth Murray is just a maniac too. Curly-haired little peckerhead. They'll fight. He's a Western boy.
You look and you see yourself and you see Trevor Gillies on the ice. Nah, I'd be like saying, "Oh my God, I gotta go to the bathroom." Or I don't want to be on the ice for this. Hand it to you.
I mean, they had a tough team too that year. Like they had a pretty tough team. So I mean, it was kind of we were even. I mean, I'd like to say we kind of edged them out a little bit, but they had a pretty tough team too. But I mean, the worst part about it is we play them almost every other night. It seemed like.
So fights every night.
Yeah, we got to hating each other, and by the end of the season.
I love that. You know what? That will be the question then for your line mate. Obviously, Gillies and Grenier would be your favorite line mates. Is that fair to leave it at that?
That whole, like I said, we could do anything we wanted to. I mean, it was fun.
Literally scare everybody off. I'm surprised the refs just didn't call the game in for a mercy rule.
I mean, Marty Grenier, he was the biggest human. Like he had size 13 or 14 skates. Oh. And I mean, like he had hands. I mean, they were like mitts. Like I've got big hands, but he dwarfed my hands. And then, he had a big old pumpkin on him. And he was just so, and then he'd get angry. He was an angry Frenchman. And he was scary when he'd get angry because he was so strong. I mean, it was ridiculous. Nicest guy, though. Nice guy.
And that's what Brooks is saying about you. Mean on the ice at a point, but the nicest guy off the ice.
Well,
He said that. He said
it's a persona. It's like anything, You get so, I mean, I like to think I was a nice guy on the ice for the most part. I'd play hard, but then the wires would touch every once in a while, and obviously I'm not as intense as Trev and all them guys, but I mean, it was hard for me, in all honesty, it was hard for me to kind of get to that because I never really was a really aggressive or wanting to, it was hard for me to accept that role. It took me a long time to accept that role, but once I did, I kind of ran with it. And, I guess once I kind of have my kids, that's kind of when I was like, okay, these guys are trying to take food off my kid's table. I'm not going to let that happen. And then it kind of clicked. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, off the ice, I'm a big teddy bear.
You know what? That's the perfect final topic, don't you think, Brooksy?
Oh, the teddy bear. Yeah, no, that was great. I just want to thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate you taking this time, especially while you're working so hard over there at the fire hall.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. For running calls, I mean, I'll be honest with you, like I said, my hat's off to, all the people in emergency service right now, because this is not a good time to be in it, dealing with the COVID thing and then with the riot and the protesters. I don't have a problem with the protesters doing it the right way, but the other people that are, taking advantage of, situations, that's where I have a problem with. And like I said, my hat's off to the law enforcement. They've got a tough job, but all across the board. So
yeah, they do. Hats off to you for you too, obviously being involved in that, and just it's definitely been a change here in 2020. This year has definitely just been.
That's a fact.
Putting it lightly. Now, obviously, as she said, Steve, I couldn't be more thankful for you for coming on. I know the next time we have you on, we're already got an emotion. We're going to make sure that it's yourself and Trevor combined with myself and Brooksy, and there'll be a part 2 combined. I think that'd be epic to plan down.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, guys. My pleasure. I enjoyed talking with y'all.
Definitely. Now, I want to say thank you to Brendan Brooks, who's been my great co-host, as always, here with the Game Sports Show Special Edition, brought to you by the Game Entertainment and Media and the GameSportsShow.com. It's been yours truly, David McCaig. Getting to our conclusion portion, I want to remind all the listeners and also viewers, I also want to remind Steve MacIntyre and Brendan Brooks to keep your stick on the ice, swing your bat, catch your touchdown, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.
You have been listening to the Game Sports Show, powered by GEM and theGameSportsShow.com. Special edition uploads brought to you by Compass Imaging and Dumanski Office Interiors. Shout out to our additional sponsors and broadcasting partners: ESPN 1400, On TV, Northern Superior Brewing Company, Sports Center Bar and Grill, North Shore Sports and Auto, Northern Critters in Need, and Thrush Creative Co.